All right, and we're going. So, second Monday, Alumni Monday here with graduate Austin Tudor. Austin is a 2010 graduate of the Mississippi State PGA Golf Management Program. Currently works for Fujikura Golf. He's in Southern California, and want to welcome Austin and look forward to a conversation with him. So, Austin, how's everything going in California right now?
Adam, it's actually been pretty nice. First I got to say, Hail State. Happy to be on. Thanks for making me number two. Tough act to follow behind Mr. Rod Perry, but excited to be on with you. We've got some great weather out here. I hate to always talk about the weather, but when you live in California, you pay for it. You got to talk about it. So it's like probably 73 degrees right now, a little breeze, and I can see the ocean right out our front window here. So. It's not super cloudy yet. It typically clouds up in the morning, and then in the afternoon it goes away, and we get a nice little peak. So, what's going on with you?
Well, the rest of us will just be jealous because we're just now gotten really hot. Afternoon thunderstorms. I'm sure it's moving event called Moving You to MSU this week. So it's usually 1 or 2 days, but they've stretched it out over a bunch of days in the event of social distancing.
Sure.
We can get in safely. But we're good here. Looking forward to a fall semester that's going to be challenging, that's going to be unique with the way we're going to be. I've got a variety of masks and face guards and shields to wear for class.
Got ours as well.
There you
go. Got our Fuji ones. Got to stay branded. Got to stay reffing the whole time, obviously, out here. So
absolutely. But one of the things we're seeing, the university golf course here that we've all, play and love, down for about a month in April. And a couple of area golf courses thanked us for doing that because then they were incredibly busy. And when we got back open May 1, very, very busy and had been busy every really week since. And
sure.
Shows no signs of slowing down. How does that really affect you guys in what you're doing at Fujikura? Are you guys seeing an increase in shipments, an increase in orders, an increase in supplying OEMs with products so they can fill orders? What are you guys seeing? Because certainly it's hard to look at a silver lining with coronavirus. Has been such a debilitating thing for our country and so many people, but the golf industry seems to have really benefited from people wanting to get outside and be with their friends and family in a sort of approved activity. So what are you guys seeing there at Fujikura as a response to all this?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, it's obviously been rough, and living in such a populous state, we have a higher count of cases and what's going on, but we are fortunate that golf has become kind of this social distance sport, and it's already kind of backed into that, right? It's already locked in as a sport as a whole. So, we don't spend a whole lot of time close together, but we have a lot of time where we can get close together because we're out there for 4.5 hours. So I think honestly, seeing what we've seen here, there's obviously more and more golfers getting into the game, getting to enjoy the game. We're also seeing golfers that have been playing the game for a while, that aren't having to go to those team sports with children and things like that. So they're starting to invest in their games as well. And we've had an unbelievable couple of months because of this. People are super interested in their equipment. There are new things coming out that our OEM partners are launching constantly. So we're obviously supporting them there. But yeah, it's funny to see it, but much like the golf courses with their tee times, we can't keep up with our current product, because how does anyone forecast such a weird thing, what I've kind of coined June boom, when we've been through March, April, and May without golf. And then all of a sudden everybody comes into the game in June, and now we can't keep up. So our factories are doing the best they can over in Japan, and we're doing the best we can to just keep our our OEMs and our trader dealer network supported as best as possible through all this.
So with that, as you mentioned, manufacturing over in Japan, how was that disrupted? Or are materials hard to get? Was it just a human issue of getting people that could work and work to manufacture? How did it actually get affected in that regard? Because this thing has affected the world at different times.
For
So
sure.
where it was affecting overseas before us, now we're still in the middle of it. How did it really affect the manufacture of golf shafts?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a couple of, it was really only a few weeks that our Japan facilities were affected because they are a connection of islands, right? So they're able to contain it a lot easier. Their culture, the Japan culture, last year I was over there, and to see the respect for each other, if someone's sick, they wear the mask.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been going on for years over in Japan. That's not something new. So just it's a respect mentality over in Japan. So they would automatically have their mask. One of my counterparts over there, we went over for the Japan Golf Fair. He was sick, but he had to be there. He was one of the essential guys. And back in 2019, he had his mask on 24/7. And it's just, this was long before any of this coronavirus stuff. So they've done a great job of containing it. Our factories are set up in such where there's a lot of distance between people as it is. So with that regard, we've actually been able to keep up from a production standpoint. What we aren't able to keep up with is the forecasting, right? Like I said,
Sure.
you don't know how long coronavirus is going to be, so you adjust your forecast to maybe reduce your amount of production and inventory of particular models. When all of a sudden golf becomes this whole new thing in June, for new golfers, existing golfers to get back out on the course, they're investing in their game, like I said. So how do you keep up with, you've turned the switch off. You can't really just immediately turn it back on and have everything you need again.
Absolutely. So with that being said, we've heard from a few through some vendor meetings at the golf course that product launches have been delayed. Certain company X we were ready to put out a new driver. We're going to have to bump that back 6 months. Is Fujikura right now in always a stage of improvement in product development? And I don't know if Fujikura has a timetable of we unveil new shafts when they're ready, or if we have a timetable. So talk about that. And has this disrupted anything where you're going to delay some product launches? Because it's not like the current product lineup is not good and not and underperforming. It's doing great on the PGA Tour in regard to Ventus and those other things. So how has that gone in terms of development of new product and new product launches?
Sure. Well, we only had really a couple of weeks on a new upcoming product that were caused delayed through COVID and coronavirus. But I'm really proud of our team for being on constant communication like this throughout all of it. So we were at home for multiple months on end, but in constant communication. So obviously there's our R&D team, there's our product marketing team, which I'm a part of. There's our traditional marketing team where we're coming up with the graphics. What's this new product going to look like? All of those different things. So I'm in communication with those guys, talking to tour, when's the best date for us to launch something like this? And we kept it collective as a whole, just moving this thing forward. We were going to continue to move forward regardless and be ready for a launch, should something else, magically happen where this went away. But we were ready for it, so it didn't really slow us down that much other than slightly in prototyping and prototype testing, excuse me, just because we couldn't have any bodies in the office. So now that we are able to, for the past couple of months, we've done some prototyping, we've done some testing, we've kind of shored things up, and we're going to be ready for a launch here in a few weeks.
I guess now that you really mention it, as you were talking about that, I started to think about Fujikura in terms of launching a product. Sometimes you'll see a company, all of a sudden you see a club head, and what's that? And you might not hear anything about it. There might be some spy photos, but it could be something that you're not going to see or hear about for 3 months.
Sure.
You think about it with Fujikura, I can't recall a product that was really making its rounds and people were wondering, what is this? What is this? What is this? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's been in so-and-so's bag for 6 months. So you guys probably do a lot of your testing before it's really getting into a tour player's hands. And I'm really just thinking about Ventus right now, because I feel like Ventus was out and was making its rounds on tour all at the same time. It wasn't a staggered time. Now, how does that work from a product launch and then from a testing standpoint?
Yeah, well, so what we do is we use this system behind me. It's called Enzo, and it's basically our MRI of a golf shaft, where we set a golfer up for testing, and we can track everything that golfer, that relationship between that golfer and that full club, not just the shaft, not just the head, and not just that impact, right? So we can see the full swing, what the shaft's doing, whether it's leading, lagging, drooping, how much twist is in it, all of that we're able to see through Enzo technology. And as we were creating this, we were this Ventus product, we were working on making something ultra stable at the moment of impact, and we wanted to bring in on center face contact. So we added up all of these different materials. I'm not going to get super techie with you because this could go over some people's heads, but I know there's some other golf geeks out there like me that love talking about this stuff, yourself included. But we just took Ventus and prototyped it, tested it. We did seed it to the tour. What really happens out on the PGA Tour, though, is our OEM partners are launching in January. So we either have to kind of beat that with an old model or somehow sure it up with a new model, our launch with a new model. And a lot of guys don't want to try something new. Like they don't want to do a double switch, right? So they want to maybe keep the shaft or keep the head. So they're not creating this whole new golf club with two new somethings, right? So as time goes on, if guys are having issues, that's when we start to come in more into play, and we do the fine tuning, right? So we're able to provide them with products that make their games better based on how their swing maybe has evolved or something like that. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. I mean, I would have never thought of it in that sense of essentially January is the launch for a lot of product, but it's halfway through the PGA Tour season in some regards. I mean, depending on how you look at it as a wraparound or whatever. So when you start talking about making product changes and having to do both, which we all know that just putting putting your old shaft in a new head isn't necessarily going to work every time. But for the most part, at least it's the one comfortable thing that a lot of companies are not going to have massive differences in head feels and looks to where it's not going to be something familiar in their hands.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's where we kind of just rely on our foundation of having great tour success over the past 25 years and those great relationships with the tour representatives from the OEMs to where we can, our rep on tour, Pat McCoy or Marshall Hovis or Marshall Thompson or John Hovis can go out and say, hey, we've done some studying with this player. This is an option you should try. And the next time you get a time, because we don't pay players. They're not contracted. So it's a little bit of the wild, wild west out there on the fitting tee for our tour reps.
Sure. And at that point, you're there to service the players on Monday through Wednesday. And if something works well for Gary Woodland, there's a chance it could work for a DJ or somebody with a similar transition, similar body type. They may trust if you said, hey, so-and-so like this shaft, in their fairway wood, you may like it as well. And then they test it and either put it into play or don't.
Yeah. And there's also those conversations that are had between players where they'll, if maybe they're not contracted by a clubhead OEM, they'll sit there on the range and bounce back and forth with each other's drivers as well. So it's crazy how things evolve and how things can go into a player's bag. There's a certain multi-major winner out there that has his own set of irons with a particular OEM, that there's all these guys on tour that are playing his irons. I think you get my point there, who we're talking about here. But, they're made for this guy's particular spec, but all of these other guys have found fire with those as well. So it's so funny how things happen and how things just kind of occur out on the PGA Tour and the Korn Ferry and LPGA Tours as well.
I think what's interesting is you're starting to see people are understanding that playing equipment that makes them better is better than having a full club deal. So you've seen all these tour players with mixed bags that have won majors. I mean, I forget how many of the last 10 major champions, were mixed bag, and not necessarily they didn't have a club deal, but they weren't required to carry 12, 14 clubs. They had a whole mixture in their bag. So I find all that really interesting. But let's talk about, your journey there. For everybody listening, Austin grew up in outside of Atlanta, graduates from here, a couple internships, leaves here in 2010, goes to Mizuno, but the whole thought was to always back up at Titleist because he did his last internship there and then ended up at Titleist for a good stint and now is at Fujikura. But Austin, talk about really your time back here in Starkville, how it got you to where you are, and how big a role being in the program played for getting you to where you are now, taking care of a family. I know you got a young son and you and your wife met out there. So a lot of us look at Mississippi State and think, it really set me up for everything. But talk about your experiences and how everything went from really freshman year to today, and and just hear a couple of sentences.
Yeah, it's a fun one to tell. It's fun to think about back sometimes too, because I don't do it that often. But I can remember choosing Mississippi State because I wanted to get in marketing. I was 18 years old. There were a couple of different options, and having that marketing and business degree was first and foremost for me because I knew I wanted to work in marketing for a golf equipment manufacturer. So within a couple of weeks, I go up to Jeff Atkerson and I say, "All right, I want to work at Titleist one day," and out in California on the club team. And he said, "All right, well, we're going to do our best to get you there." And he sets me up with Jim Rose at Tupelo Country Club. He was a Titleist Leadership Advisory staff member, and just working for Jim gave me some credit that I was working for a big time Titleist guy at that time. And then my next one, and still have a great relationship, and he's an awesome man. Then went to Windike Country Club, where it was truly a golf factory, and they do so much in equipment. I got to really dig my teeth into what equipment was there, with learnings from some of the best. They had great fitters there. Consistently had demos out for people to go out and try. So I had to know and be able to explain kind of what was new within each OEM when I was working the floor. So that's one of my key takeaways from Windike. And so then, I talked to Jeff, and it's like a kismet or it happened, a beautiful coincidence. But Titleist just happened to have an intern program for one of the first times for my, the spring, summer, excuse me. It's been a while since I've been in school, spring, summer. So I applied for it, and I talked to one of the gentlemen out there who was going to be the director or the leader of customer service. And I was able to get one of those positions. And it was kind of just like, wow, this is it. This is my step in. And so I worked out there for 8 months, got to dive in with some of the Vokey program stuff. And I got to learn, how, all of these golf courses call in, place custom orders. And you really, really learn the custom side of the business because you're talking to these guys that may need like a quick tip, not the most advanced fitter, but they're working with someone, and you would give them an exact suggestion as to, maybe try this shaft or try this head with that type of player. You also learn how custom builds work through all of that and through the different softwares that companies have. So while it was a customer service role, the learning and the technology that I had access to was unbelievable. So graduated 2010, and then January, I talked to my local Mizuno rep and said, "Hey, I'm fresh out of school. They just happen to have a customer support job open." And I got my foot in there. Again, got to learn and meet some amazing people there. I still keep in touch with to this day. And that was one of the things that I wanted to make sure I told you. Keep these people, keep your network large, and make sure that you're keeping in contact with it. Don't just like, if you get somewhere, don't just stop doing what you're doing. Keep learning, keep educating yourself, and keep in touch with people from your past, because you never know what can happen. You never know how they can help you, or you can help them for that matter. But anyways, a little sidebar there. May of 11, I get the call from Titleist to say, "Hey, we've got this temporary position." And I called you shortly after, and I said, "Adam, what do you think? We've been friends for a long time. What do you think about this option?" And you were kind of like, "Well, go for it. I mean, you're only 23. what's the worst that can happen? You've got to come back home if it doesn't work out. And here we are, 9 years later. I'm still in California, and leading on to, I know I'm rambling, I'm talking a lot, but I'm trying to paint this whole picture of where this gets to Fujikura and my position. So worked for customer service at Titleist for a few years, got my first step into marketing as a merchandising coordinator, working on displays, and slowly evolved that into working on some of the equipment and talking, metal woods, iron, wedges, putters with some of the best. And shortly after that, I saw the product manager position come open with Fujikura, and it was kind of that next step. And it felt like the right time. Titleist had given me a great 7.5 years of learning and experience, but I was kind of maybe looking for something more, or I felt like I needed to make a move and continue to learn, continue to educate myself, and got the job with Fuji in November of 2018, and have been more than happy ever since.
Man, that's it's amazing how you had in your mind what you wanted to do. Titleist was as far as you were concerned, that was going to be it. And it's not like the roads won't lead you back there at some point. Yep. But right now you can tell that your passion for for what it is you're doing is the reason why you've been successful in it, and the reason why you've had the success that you have in discussing equipment, trying to make people better, because everybody who's involved in our wonderful game have a different role to play, whether it's getting people proper equipment, teaching them the game, getting them access to a golf course. Every one of us are playing a role in that, and we're all take that very serious, I believe, and take those roles because we all love it, because we all love the game, period, and I think that we've all been lucky. All of us are forever indebted to Mississippi State. So many of us come from different places and different states and didn't grow up Mississippi State fans and knew nothing about Starkville, but come together and have this bond in this after you get out and get into the career. So it is amazing to hear what graduates are continuing to do in this game and have an impact on this game far beyond graduation. And hopefully always look upon their time back in Starkville, with positive feelings and always wanting to figure out a way to get back here, whether it's for football, to see friends, whatever it may be.
Absolutely. And, the cool thing about the program too, is you have this other level of guys that have already gone through what you're going through, so they're coming in as a freshman. There were obviously sophomores, juniors, and seniors above us, and you were one of those for my class. And you were always you've always been a good friend, good mentor for me. And it's without a doubt, it's not surprising at all to see you evolve into the role that you're in now, being a mentor of students for so long. It was kind of already built in. And this isn't just to to tap you, pat you on the back or anything, but it's the truth. You always helped me figure out kind of my path through all this. We've had long conversations ever since, and always kept in touch. So
I think this program really, if you look at it, and some people who are still with us and listening right now would tell you that this has been a very pay it forward program, because while you say that to me, I look back to obviously Jeff, really had a good relationship with Dr. LeMay as well. Jeff will tell you, he'll point to Dr. Jones, which Dr. Jones, it just goes on. And, all the way
Absolutely.
To the first class of Blaine Merritt and some others that were incredibly important to what this program is and what it's always has been. So lo and behold, when we've retired and moved on, there's going to be people continuing to mentor them, mentor young golf professionals as they come through this program. And hopefully we'll be able to look back and know that we had an impact on it. And that's the best way to say thank you to a mentor is to be one. And I've got individuals now that you speak with and work alongside that look up to you, and that will continue to pay forward on in. So, well, Austin, I appreciate the time. I appreciate the insight. We could talk tech stuff with Shafts for an hour and and something that you and I are both passionate about, and really enjoy looking at what's new and what's happening, and proud of you for the work you've done and everything you've got going on. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you soon here back on campus, or at least an opportunity for you to get back east to see your family. Okay.
Absolutely, man. And again, I want to just speak the praises of the program. I've always looked back at my time so highly there, in high regard. And again, I can't wait to get back to Starkville once we can finally travel again, you know.
Absolutely. Let's just cross our fingers we're going to have a football season, because right now it's sort of hanging in the balance. So
No,
let's hope.
I put it up here for good luck, just in case.
That's good. All right, Austin. I appreciate it. We'll hope we see you soon.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.